So I'm here with Rabbi Lawrence. This is the third part of an interview. It's been really fascinating. We could sit here for hours. I could for sure and hear details upon details. But this is a good beginning. So I have two questions about some of the things you said in the previous two segments.
Mm-hmm.
One is, did you return to Leeds and to Gateshead, and did you visit the Rosh Yeshivas, the Mashgichim, other people in those communities once you became a Lubavitcher? And if you did, what was their reaction? Anything that comes to mind that you could tell me about?
Well, I did value my life, so I never went back to Gateshead.
Okay.
Although I respected it, by the way. They were
Yeah.
nice guys. But I will tell you an interesting story that happened with this Rosh Yeshiva in Schneider's, Lapian. After I went to Lubavitch, many years later, he came to Toronto. He was collecting for one of his yeshivas that he opened up. He opened up many yeshivas.
In England?
In different places.
Uh-huh.
Different places. So it was Lag BaOmer, and I was sitting there. I used to translate in those days that we came through the telephone.
The Farbrengens.
The Farbrengens. So I would translate for the people. And he was sitting there. I thought, oh, maybe he did Teshuvah. So I wait my time. I said, hello. He knew who I was, obviously. And afterwards I said, do you have a ride home? And he said, no. I said, I'll give you a ride home. See what he's going to say. Now, at that particular Farbrengen, the Rebbe said a mimer, and the mimer was an hour long. Now, even if you know Chassidus, it's very hard to
follow.
We'll see what he's going to say. So I didn't say anything. Suddenly he says,
he sat through the mimer for an
I
hour?
was sitting for an hour because we're collecting money,
Yeah.
You'll do anything for money.
Right.
So he starts up and he says, how come the Rebbe was speaking Kabbalah? Kabbalah, Masama, he doesn't understand it himself. And I didn't say anything.
This is what he says to you in the car?
That's what he said to me in the car. So there was a stupidity. So I didn't say anything. What am I going to say? And so afterwards, I said, it's been nice seeing you, etc., etc. And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I should say that Gateshead did change, because a little while ago I saw there was a video. They actually asked somebody from Crown Heights to come to Gateshead and pour into Farbrengen with them. And I saw the whole yeshiva was at the Farbrengen.
Wow.
So they did Teshuvah. I once met one of the guys from Gateshead, and he said, David, he said, what happened to you? You used to be a good bacher. I said, I did Teshuvah. And I got out of there quick. And then somebody else came over and he says, is he a Lubavitch? I said, not yet. He says, what do you mean by that? I says, well, we have a principle. Ultimately, we'll all do Teshuvah. And of course, I got out of there quick.
But by and large, you didn't have any connection. You never. So you came and Leeds. What have you gone back to Leeds? I don't know.
Well, no, because my father unfortunately passed away, and my mother, she was living in a different city because she had gone blind, and so I really never got back to Leeds. So I never kept contact.
And did you have any connection to either Rabbi Dubov, Rabbi Shem Tov? Did any of those figures, the older Hasidim, Rabbi Nachman Sudak, did any of them have an interaction with you?
No, but I do remember Rabbi Shem Tov. And who knows where the spark begins? When I was in Gateshead, he would come and sell records.
What, like every week? No.
No, he came once a year. He would sell records. As far as we were concerned, he was selling records.
The Lubavitcher records?
Well, the records, I didn't know what they were. But what we didn't know is that he was giving us Shir in Tanya like 2 a.m. to select Bochrim. So that I found out later.
Uh-huh.
Now, even in Leeds, by the way, and this also could be set the seed for Lubavitch, the Rebbe told an old balabos to go to Leeds.
Who?
When I don't know who it was. This is before. This is while I was in Gateshead, but he told an elderly guy to go to Leeds and live in Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
He was Lubavitcher. I got to know the guy. He was a nice guy. Again, he never spoke about the Rebbe, etc. But who knows where the seeds are planted?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to ask you is, what your relationship with Rabbi Serebransky was, and how it impacted you, if you can say a few words about that. Because you said you were close to him, right?
I was very close to him.
This is in the 60s in Brooklyn,
in Brooklyn.
while you were in Yeshiva in 770.
Yes.
And he was already married, and he was a Melamed a teacher in the Bronx.
In the Bronx. I used to learn with him. We used to learn Kashrus together. Often spoke together. And also, when I went to the Yeshiva of the Bronx, one time, again, I showed Pratis.
You went there as a teacher, you mean?
No, I went there first of all
To meet your...
right. We were engaged already.
Right.
And the kids were gathered together. I forget the occasion. And I said, I'll tell them a story. So I told all the kids a story, and they saw that I had a relationship with the kids. Rabbi Oltiner was the principal, Shalom. He needed a teacher. So he hired me as a teacher.
When you still were single.
I was still single, yeah. And then over the years, I kept in contact with Rabbi Sarbransky. And of course, eventually he left. He went to
Melbourne
in
1970.
And I remember when I first went to Melbourne.
Because you have a daughter married there.
A daughter married.
Pinchover.
Dr. Pinchover.
He's a doctor, Pinchover?
He's a doctor, yeah.
Yes.
And again, so much as Bashkocha Pratis. How did my daughter meet him?
I don't know.
So, if you'd have known, you'd have Ruach HaKodesh. So how did my daughter meet him? So we were living in Toronto, and it was very difficult for my daughter to find a Lubavitcher Bacha in Toronto. She was 24 already. My wife was walking up the wall. You can see the footmarks on the wall. Yeah. And
your wife is a sister to Mrs. Janowski.
Mrs. Janowski, yes.
Go ahead.
Now, my daughter, she trained as an occupational therapist, and she had a good job in Toronto. So I said, we'll ask the Rebbe, should you move to New York? We asked the Rebbe, and he said yes. She moved to New York. Within 2 weeks, she got a better paying job. 3 weeks later is when she met Dr. Pinchover, because he came to New York to finish smicha. He was still a doctor. And they met, and of course the rest is history.
Mm-hmm. So when you went to Melbourne, you reconnected with Rabbi Sarbransky.
I remember I hadn't seen him for years. And as soon as I walk in the base of Medrash, he stands up, he sees me, he jumps over the tables. Gives me a hug. And, so we, even though he did make my shidduch, I still remain friendly with him. Yeah. But yes, I know, by the way, he used to visit in the Bronx, he used to visit my wife's family. So they did have some connection with Lubavitch that way as well. So that was good, yeah.
And what any connection that you had, relationship with Rabbi Mordechai Oltein at all, or Rebbetzin Oltein?
I just knew them. Yeah, I knew them well. I knew them, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now continue with the next part of your life, please. After the insurance.
After the insurance, I was approximately 70 years of age.
How old?
70, and I decided I was to retire. What am I going to do? I'm not going to stay in the same house as my wife, because otherwise it would be, David, do something.
World War III.
Yeah, it would be World War IV. Yeah. So, again, Hashgacha process all the way through. I became very friendly with a rabbi, Honstable Chassid in Toronto.
A Stipler Chassid. With a Streimel.
Yeah. And I used to pick him up. He didn't have a car. I used to pick him up every morning at his house, take him to the mikveh, take him to the bakery, and then take him home.
He was older than you, younger?
He was younger. Everybody was younger than me. Yes, and I did this for about 10 years.
From 70 to 80?
No, this is before I was 70.
Right, I got it.
So when I retired, I said to him again, quite innocently, his brother-in-law was head of the COR organization. This is the kosher organization, just like OU, etc., in Canada.
COR.
The COR. So I said, see if he's looking for somebody. And I forgot about it. I didn't expect too much. 2 weeks later, he said, I spoke to him. And because we're so close, I told him he has to hire you. So we met. And he sort of, he was looking for a good-looking guy and intelligent.
Got the right customer.
Oh, I got the right customer, right? I told him when I met him, I'm intelligent and good-looking. He said, yeah,
hire me.
Yeah, hire me, right. So they were looking for somebody at that time. There was a Chinese fish factory, and they wanted to provide kosher salmon and tilapia and fish. So he said, okay, I want you to take that over. So fine, I took it over. That was the beginning in the COR. And then, of course, it expanded from there. So I do events, I can do a lot of industrial. Now, and
You say you're the mashgiach?
I'm a mashgiach, but for all different areas.
So you travel a lot?
I travel within Toronto, within Toronto, or just outside Toronto as well. Now, again, the way that I look at my job is it's an opportunity to meet Jews, and I have done non-Jews, and to spread the word. And I have lots of interesting stories. I was going to an industrial bakery, and I meet the manager there. And of course, we're speaking about religion. I don't start it, but look for your ways in.
Right.
By the way, what religion are you? And so I say to him, and by then, never tell somebody your religion is wrong, because there's a vacuum. What you say is, when the Torah was given, it was given to you too. The 7 mitzvahs. But I just happen to have a card on me, the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. And they say thank you very much. Anyway, so I gave him the card, and then, by the way, look up on Google, look up this particular rabbi, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, look it up. Thanks very much. I go back there, this is about 2 months later, he said, oh, am I glad you're here? I lost the piece of paper. Can you write it down again? Rather than saying, Baruch Hashem, I lost it. No, he asked me again, so I told him again. And I meet, one time I gave this company, I gave the owner a picture of the Rebbe, and he put it up. And I go in next time, the secretary says, oh, we have your picture on the wall. He says, not my picture, it's a picture of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And then I tell them I'm going to the oil, etc. I'll ask for a blessing for your business, etc. But the surprising thing is that nobody ever said to me, it's not my religion. And I tell them stories. I tell them particularly one story that they like, and that is, there was a couple who went to the Rebbe and they had no children. And the Rebbe gave them a telephone number, and he says, call this number. And the guy puts the number in his pocket, goes home, forgets about it. A long time later, years later, and this is probably after Gil Tammuz, he was cleaning his jacket and he finds this number. He said, I'll call the number, nothing to lose. He calls the number. It's an orphanage. Oh, we just got 2 Jewish children in, would be interested in adopting them. He says, yeah. He said, by the way, how did you find out our orphanage? He says, well, I was by this famous rabbi in New York about probably 8-9 years ago. He gave me your number. Excuse me. And they said, you couldn't have. We only opened up 2 weeks ago. And I tell them this story, and they go, really? So whenever you tell stories of tzaddikim,
right,
they have nothing themselves, literally, and they're always impressed by this.
Right, and so you're still working for the COR?
I'm still working with the COR. The bad thing is that I do a lot of events, and the food is good. And if you want to diet, it's not the best way to do events. But I do a lot of industrial, and they have a lot of respect, for Judaism, etc. Mm-hmm. And there's no problem speaking about Torah, speaking about Sheva Mitzvahs, b'nei Noach. The only thing is, you have to get into it in a way,
indirect way.
Yeah, you're not fighting with everybody,
right?
But I do tell them what you should do is to validate your religion. Look at the source. If your source is valid, your religion's valid. If it's not, I'll tell you a story that happened to me. Again, this was in the insurance company, but it's worth telling the story. I get onto a bus one day, and I see a non-Jewish guy reading a Jewish book. One of those readers. So I think, strange. I get into the bus the next day. The bus is full. The only seat that's available is next to this guy. I sit next to him. I said, I saw you reading your book. How come? Jewish book. Oh, well, I used to hate the Jews. But when I found that our leader is Jewish, I love the Jews. And I want to learn about religion directly from your Hebrew source.
Huh.
I says, now that you're learning Hebrew, the word for truth is emes. Starts with an aleph, finishes with a lash. In the middle is a mem. Do you know why? Because to be truth, it has to be truth all the way through. If anything changes, it's not truth. Look at your religion, for example. It's changed. How many times has it changed? How many religions do you have? Christian religions. So that's not truth. Fine. I get into the bus the next day. Again, the same thing. Bus is crowded. One seat vacant next to him. Sit down. And he has one of these books, Juice for J, for J. And he shows me it. And he shows in the front, there's a picture of this rabbi. Oh, he was in Preston. I said, I'll tell you a better story. We have a high priest. For 80 years, he was a high priest. He became a heretic. Sometimes there's something in there, it comes out, etc. And then he shows me a posuk from Tehillim, capital Kuf Yud, where it says somebody is sitting at the right hand of Hashem. It says, who's that? That must be obviously, you know who. Okay, fine. So I researched it a little bit, and a very good translation, and I see that it says in the back of this translation, this is one of the proof texts that the non-Jews try and prove their religion. But then he gives the real explanation. So I take this, make a photocopy for him, get on the bus the next day, same thing. Bus is full.
One seat available.
I sit next to it.
And you give
I said, by the way, you know the proof you gave me? Here's the explanation. And we can find explanation for everything that you bring, etc. Mm-hmm. That was the last I saw of the
Now, in Toronto, did you develop certain connections with who was your Rav? Or, I'm saying, did you have any rabbis, people, that you
Well, the Rav David,
Rabbi David Shochat,
I was very close to him.
You were?
Unfortunately, he passed away, but I was very close to him and to Rabbi Gansberg and to the Lubavitchers, but particularly.
You live in Thornhill? You live in Thornhill?
No, I live in the middle, Bainani, between. By the way, when I was looking for a house in Toronto, I asked the Rabbi a number of times, should I buy this house? He said, no, this house, speak to somebody. And the house that I actually bought, that he allowed me to buy. And that is between the two Lubavitchers. And
so where did you daven?
So I davened in, for many years, in Lubavitch. But now they need a minyan where I am. And I also give many classes there, Chassidus and Rambam. And
what kind of shul is it? A Litvishe shul?
It's a Litvishe shul.
Yeah, but it's near your house.
It's near my house, about 7 minutes walk.
And the rabbi and you get along well?
The rabbi passed away, not because I was there, by the way. But he got, I was close to him.
What was his name?
It's just
Rabbi Miller?
No, Rabbi Miller's, he's in the COR, etc. It'll come to me after the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had a connection with
him? I had a connection with him, and I used to tell him stories and things of the Rebbe, etc.
The Russian Chassid, Aronov, you knew Rabbi Aronov?
Yeah, I knew him well. He was my sofer. I used to always take my tefillin to him, my mezuzahs to him. So I was very close to him as well. Of course, Lubavitch changed a lot in Toronto. When I went to Toronto, the Lubavitch was in one area, a few families, and then it moved up Thornhill. Now most Lubavitchers live in Thornhill.
Right.
And
my brother-in-law was a Serebransky. He lives Eli Serebransky.
Yeah, I know him well. He's in the Cheder.
Yeah. He lives there.
Yeah. But I gave a lot of in Toronto. I gave a lot of classes, shiurim to women for many years. I still do Pirkei Avos and Tanya, and so we did. So
Baruch Hashem, you're active.
Oh yeah, have to be active.
Yeah, active. Your mind's thinking, and you're working, and Baruch Hashem, your health.
Depends who you ask.
It's a big
Baruch Hashem that I'm still out of the house.
Any final thing you want to say before we finish the interview?
Yeah, if the Rebbe once mentioned, one of the Rebbes mentioned, that you see Hashgacha Pratis more when you're in the business world than when you're sitting and learning.
Yes.
And if somebody looks back at his own life, he will see Hashgacha Pratis all the time. And this is one thing I've seen with my own life, is how Hashem was involved, the Rebbe was involved all the time. So I'm very happy for that.
And you must feel elated that, as much as you got in your youth learning in a Litvishe Yeshiva and a Vardik Yeshiva, you had the merit, the schus of coming to Lubavitch, to being in a Lubavitch Yeshiva and becoming a Lubavitcher.
That's the thing that I'm most happy about, is I was able to do Teshuvah and become Lubavitch. Because
you see, saying I was able to do Teshuvah, that's a Litvishe.
Yeah. They wouldn't understand that. But I couldn't imagine if I would have remained, who knows what I would have been. So it was only that the Rebbe kept me, he kept me on the derech.
Right.
And a lot of people don't. I'll finish with a quick story. Rabbi Victor Miller,
Yes.
who's a very famous rabbi.
Yeah. In Brooklyn.
So yes, he wrote the Rejoice Our Youth.
Yes.
Rebbe liked
Yeah.
that work. So somebody asked him. He said, "How come that the Rebbe can send his Hasidim to places all over
The world, right?
Well, and
Far-flung places.
But you don't find any other Rebbes do that.
Or any other Rebbes.
A Rebbe do that. Satmar Rebbe, the Vision Sir, etc.
Right. Belzer Rebbe.
Even though they're tzaddikim.
Yeah.
And the answer he gave was interesting. He says, because when he sent his Hasidim out there, he's with them. Though they're with the Rebbe, he's with them. And I see that.
Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Rabbi Lawrence, for your time. Reb David, it's been wonderful.
Thank you.
And in Mitzvah Hashem, there'll be another time we will go further. And for now, Yasher Koyach and all the best.
It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.